Hello, hello, hello. What we're doing here is we're going to be doing some lyrical analysis, and we're going back in time. Whoops, good start. We're going back in time to the 23rd of October 1970 and the release of the debut album by Genesis. The first album, the proper first album.
I think with Trespass is that we kind of feel is really the first kind of proper Genesis album.
Again, recorded between June and July 1970. This album, like I say, it's the only one to feature Andy Phillips and new drummer John Mayhew, because John Silver had gone. So yeah, this is the first Genesis album proper, and what we're going to do here is we're going to do some lyrical analysis. I'm going to talk about the lyrics of the song and try and get to look for some meaning. Now, this is similar. The way I approach this is similar to poetry analysis, right? Now, there are two things at play here. I have to explain this because there'll be people. Maybe I'll turn the comments off. There'll be people saying it doesn't mean that, it means this. Well, that's the point of art. All art is subjective. We all take we'll take our own meaning from a subject. An artist can sit down and write a song about a certain thing. You listen to it and think this means something else. So you've got to take that into account. I'm not saying that this is the definitive meaning. This is just one way of looking at it from my perspective. The point of this is to encourage you to take a critical view and listen and kind of understand the lyrics in the songs that you hear. Again, not all songs are "She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah." Some songs have hidden layers of meaning, and that's what we're doing. That is the point of this. So now that out of the way, we shall begin. The first track on the album Trespass is something called "Looking for Someone." Again, opens with an almost a cappella vocal line from Gabriel, and it's a pretty. The meaning, is it apparent? I don't know, because you can read this many different ways, and there are many themes within the lyrics, and there is a religious aspect to this that you can't ignore. So it opens looking for someone. I guess I'm doing that. So who are they looking for? Now, in rock and roll, in I just mentioned it. It's usually love, isn't it? It's a romantic conquest. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to hold your hand, etc. But in this instance, I don't believe that this is necessarily the case. There are a couple of references to religion in the song, so I would assume that this could be a religious or spiritual quest, that the protagonist is a seeker on a search for spiritual intent. And that's one aspect of the song, but there's also the question that this is possibly a quest of some sort of self-discovery, though the ambiguous nature of the lyrics makes it very open to interpretation. Yes, I am glancing at my notes. I have got a script, and if you're interested in reading this will be available to those who are members or who are on the Patreon. So money, ka-ching, ka-ching, because I actually sat down and wrote this out. I did. I could have done this off the top of my head, but you know how you people like scripted things. Trying to find a memory in a dark room. Now, for some reason, I always feel like this is it's like waking from a dream. In the darkness. Again, darkness. It could also allude to being lost. It's that moment when you wake from a dream in darkness, in utter confusion. Though this could be used in imagery to present the human mind as a series of rooms that contain memories. I don't necessarily think it is that. I think it's that sense of confusion that you get when waking in darkness. The lyrics are fragmented deliberately in order to further add ambiguity to the listener. The next line is, "Dirty man, you're looking like a Buddha. I know you will." Now there's a lot going on. There's a lot in this line, and it's the first time we have a direct link to religion by referencing Buddha, the spiritual leader of the Buddhist faith. Again, if you're familiar with Buddha, he's often represented as a large, smiling, bald man. That's what you see in popular culture, as Buddha. But with the couplet of "dirty man," it could refer to many things. It could be literal, that the person that he's referring to, that the protagonist is referring to, is actually filthy. He's dirty. He's actually covered in grime. I don't necessarily think that is the case, but that would go against the idea of Buddha, who's never represented in this way. In fact, he's always clean and beatific in his physical appearance. Someone who's spiritually at peace. So we have an imagery that is contradictory in that line. Another interpretation is the person is fat, slovenly, and is large like Buddha. But the twist in the tail of that line is "I know you are." So although there is an element of disgust at this person, the protagonist identifies himself with that same person, and so there's an element of repulsion there. I know you, because he sees it in himself. Again, that's one possibility. It could be that he's come across other people like that, and he wants to avoid those kind of spiritual leaders, possibly. Keep on a straight line. Now again, when we talk about the straight line, we're in a desperate need not to falter, not to deviate into temptation. Or temptation, we're going back to the Bible. These are spiritual concerns. We often talk about walking the metaphorical straight line so as not to fall into the influence of those things that will add to our failure. Again, this is almost religious in intent, especially when back with the second line in the couplet, "I don't believe I can." Now again, one element that is very popular in Genesis is doubt and self-doubt, and in this song it's riddled with the idea of doubt, and it's a theme that often reoccurs in Genesis song lyrics. Very rarely is the protagonist or hero mentioned in Genesis songs is totally sure of their intent. There's always an element of doubt or lack of self-belief. There's always a chance of perceived or actual failure. We see this theme constantly repeated on songs like "In the Lamb Lies Down" on Broadway. There's a protagonist who really needs some self-confidence. But there are other songs in the canon on this album. You've got "Visions of Angels," "Stagnation," "Dusk." They all have a smattering of self-doubt in there. "Fountain of Salmacis," "Harold the Barrel," "Timetable," "Say It's All Right, Joe," "Lady Lies." There's many. I could go on and on and on. There's always some, again, these are not necessarily always strong characters. These are characters that are kind of riddled with doubt. Trying to find a needle in a haystack. Now again, this is a term. This is something that we have in the English language, and I think other languages have similar metaphors. And it alludes to something that is difficult, a task that's difficult or nearly impossible. The first recorded use of such a term dates back to St Thomas More in 1532, though, like I said, there are similar phrases in German, Italian, Portuguese, and that indicates that the phrase could go back even further in time to older languages such as Persian. Again, you get the feeling it could almost be a biblical, come from biblical times. Again, our protagonist is finding a task almost impossible to complete and adds to the air of desperation. "Chilly wind, you're piercing like a dagger, it hurts me so." This imagery adds a level of struggle to the person's quest. It's not going to be easy, and even the weather appears to be against them. "Nobody needs to discover me, I'm back again." There's a couple of things to be taken from this line. The first part is that the person considers themselves utterly inconsequential and that they are beyond anyone else's interest. But then they suffix the line with "I'm back again," which indicates they're persistent and negates the first half of the line, because if they're always coming back, then there's no need to discover them in the first place. It's a contradictory term. This person is always around or seemingly omnipresent. It almost alludes to being godlike themselves. Again, it could almost be a religious or a spiritual thing. Nobody needs to discover me, I'm back again. It could again allude to spirituality. You see the sunlight through the trees to keep you warm in peaceful shades of green. It's quite an interesting shift in perspective here from first person to third person, moving away from their experience and directing attention to another person, and is in direct contrast to the reference to the chilly wind earlier as we moved into a place of sunlight and peaceful shades of green, the forest, a place of shelter. Is this referring to someone who's already found someone, who has already found enlightenment? But the tranquil scene doesn't last for long as the protagonist switches back to the first person narrative, adding doubt again. Yet in the darkness of my mind, Damascus wasn't far behind. This is probably the most key line. This is an important and tightly knotted couplet in the song when trying to understand or unpick its meaning. When someone has a darkness of the mind, it can refer to, well, many things. It can be depression, illness, murderous intent. But coupled with the reference to Damascus, perhaps they're referring to a Damascene moment, a sharp period of internal revelation. But I believe that that line is the key to the meaning of the song, because we have to bring Christianity into the song. And if you go through the catalogue, there's an awful lot of Christian imagery in the music, both lyrically and musically. I mean, again, all those big chords that Tony Banks plays, there's a lot of like hymn-like structure in the music. And again, the name itself, and name after a Bible. So you have to draw parallels with that religion, and draw parallels between this and the conversion of the Apostle Paul, because that's where the Damascus moment occurs in the Bible. On the biblical record, Saul was on his way to Damascus on errand with a letter to arrest anyone who was a follower of Jesus Christ. He was so anti-Jesus of Nazareth that he considered threats of murder against the disciples of Jesus, but a light shone upon him, and Jesus appeared, striking his heart full of fear. He thought that Jesus was going to have him in, right? But of course, that's not Jesus. Jesus asked him to turn from darkness to the light, and gave him commission to be his apostle and his messenger, going completely against Saul's previous nature. And again, you can almost see echoes of that. We reference darkness and light, and again, somebody in need of a mission, possibly. Again, this is just one way of interpreting it. We don't necessarily have to go there, but we'll talk about why I think this is so later. He also took on the name of Paul. So he changed from Saul to Paul. So thematically it fits within the song, with the protagonist seeking someone, being given new meaning and taking on a new name. But again, the lyrics are deliberately ambiguous, and I can imagine that the influence of their time at Charterhouse, at the public school, and the Christian teachings there being, just been seeping into them, and it would have come out in this early point of their career. Lost in a subway. I guess I'm losing time. Now here we switch from the forest, and we take the listener to a more urban surroundings, and gives us a sense that the storyteller is contemporaneous and not necessarily literally on the road to Damascus. The subsequent line adds to the mystery, indicating that perhaps they either cannot remember how they got there, or perhaps there's a sense of time running out. Again, it's ambiguous. There's a man looking at a magazine. This indicates that the scene is quite mundane. But then there's the following line could be construed as not related to the man, but to someone else. It says, "You're such a fool. Your mumbo jumbo never tells me anything." Again, this is a cry of desperation, possibly at a guru or a spiritual advisor, and the rejection of their teachings. The use of mumbo jumbo is often used to indicate exasperation at religion or a spiritual belief, magic. It's a load of mumbo jumbo. Again, these teachings are a dead end to the protagonist, as they feel that they can't get anything from it. So there's a real sense of frustration and anger here. And again, we repeat the line, "Nobody needs to discover me, I'm back again." This line indicates that we have a sense of structure to the song. Up until the point, we feel that it's just a series of verses, stanzas, but that repetition of the line, an echoing scene in the woodland, shifting to the fire burnt out, indicates there's a chorus. We have a first chorus kind of structure, very loose. You feel the ashes from the fire that kept you warm, its comfort disappears. And so we have a time of stability and care, but that's now past, and we're back to insecurity and doubt, which is reiterated by the following lines. And still the only friend I know will never tell me where I go. Thematically, this is an idea we'll revisit later on. The lamb lies down on Broadway, where the character Raoul feels insecurity and can never get any comfort from his brother John. In this instance, with all the allusions to religion it possibly being the story of Paul the Apostle, perhaps this is an expression of frustration at his mentor, who will tell you broadly how to lead your life, but doesn't necessarily give you direct instruction when you feel that you need it. Looking for someone, and now I found myself a name. This is the line where the meaning of the song kind of turns on its head, as we've gone from the protagonist looking for someone, perhaps a leader of sorts, but the big reveal is the search was a personal one, as they've found myself a name. Now this can be interpreted in a couple of different ways. Make a name for yourself. That could be that you've made a success or found some sort of celebrity or fame. But if we go back to the story of Paul the Apostle, we see that he started off as Saul, the Pharisee, but ended up as Paul the Apostle, and so finds himself a new name, a new sense of self, and a new purpose. You know, again, we're just drawing parallels. Here. Come away, leave me, all that I have I will give. Leave me, all that I am I will give. Again, it's in the lyrics it says all I am I will give, but if you listen to it on the song, Gabriel sings all I will have I will give twice. So again, not sure if that's a typo or a mistake, I don't know, but maybe he does sing am and it just sounds like have, but I've replayed it, God, thousands of times. It always sounds like he's repeating have. Anyway, off of that detail. This couplet illustrates a change in the character, a complete change of heart. Before, they appeared to be quite selfish in their quest, and it was all about them reaching their destination, their goal. But here, something has fundamentally changed. The desperation has changed to a pleading of almost subservience as they pledge themselves to whoever it is they've found. It feels like a contradictory statement, but it is now someone who has the strength to stand alone and pledge themselves totally to their new belief. Of course, there might not be a religious aspect to this song at all, and then that would cast the song as more of a personal journey of self-discovery. But the religious imagery that is peppered within the lyrics is tantalising and compelling, especially when you know that they would have a good Christian education at public school. They attended at Charterhouse, and as a group they were named, obviously, after a Bible chapter. So how would I read the song? Would be it's the story of personal self-discovery, with somebody imagining themselves in the same shoes as Paul the Apostle, paralleling his journey of transformation from unbeliever to someone who's pledged their allegiance to Christ. Alright, so it's deep stuff. So let's talk about the structure and themes of the song. In the first song, in the first album proper, which we're not going to argue about, the band has already thrown out the idea of the traditional song structure of verse, chorus, verse, and adopted a more looser form. The chorus sections are marked with the line "Nobody needs to discover me," but there's no repetition of the lyrics following that, which you normally get in a chorus. Instead, the chorus sections share a thematic similarity in that they describe locations and the current position of the protagonist in the third person. The constant shifting from first to third person is something that should be noted. Is the writer trying to bring the listener into the song, by alluding to you in those moments, or does the narrative focus change to pull away from the main character? What is the purpose of that? Again, there's ambiguity there. Religious symbolism is present in the song, as it mentions both Buddha and Damascus. Again, Buddha is Buddhism, Damascus is a location referenced in the Bible. These are two opposing, opposite religions, but they're both used there. The mention of Buddha could be that the protagonist is looking for a spiritual leader in their personal search. The reference to Damascus is more curious, as it's presented in the song as if the character was talking about an event that has happened there. Now, we talk of a Damascene moment, or being on the road to Damascus, a great revelation of truth or self-awareness. In this case, perhaps it is self-awareness. I think it's important to always mention the religious symbolism in Genesis songs because of their time at Charterhouse. And it would have seen Christianity running through their experience like the letters in a stick of seaside rock. From actual religious studies to the daily assembly with perhaps a sermon and hymns being sung. Again, my own school experience in the early 80s, comprehensive secondary school, we sung hymns. We even had a school hymn, and we learnt the Lord's Prayer. We had to learn it by rote, and sometimes the Bible thing loomed large over us. We even had I had a priest who taught us religious education. We had a nun who used to teach us. So that influence goes in. It goes in and it comes out in lyrics. In the second stanza, the wind is compared to a dagger, which is the first mention of a knife on the album, and seen as the weapon features on the album sleeve, on the actual cover, and is the title of the last song on the album. It is a portent of things to come. Again, the knife imagery is used a number of times on the album. It's a masculine image, penetrating, eviscerating, and is quite a common metaphor when describing the wind. The wind was quite cutting, etc. The band also likes to shift from pastoral to urban settings. The forest and its peaceful shades of green give way to a subway and the magazine vendor, from calm to confusion. The album overall doesn't make any other mention of the urban sprawl after this, and as a whole, Genesis can be seen as a rather pastoral group on this album, telling tales of the open air, moving from village to village like wandering minstrels, observing and retelling peculiar stories as they go. I think the inner sleeve of the record is where you move, you get the visual aid now, which features a small watercolour image from Paul Whitehead. Details the view from within, inside a forest, peeping out into the sunny blue-skied expanse of the horizon, and that perfectly expresses the music held within. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that first song from the album. It's very much a song about discovering somebody who's a seeker on a quest, and who knows exactly. We'll never know. And it's good when you don't know what the meaning is, because it allows you, the listener, to come to it and interpret things your own way. Now again, this is just my interpretation. These are just some ideas that you can consider, and you can listen to the song and you can try and unravel the mystery yourself. Of course, it may mean something different to you because you may have heard it at a certain time in your life and it has other meaning. That's the beauty of art, that's the beauty of songs. Whether you're looking at a painting on a wall or listening to classical music or any form of art, we can all bring our own interpretation to it, and that is fine. Alright, because there are many meanings to things, and this is what this is all about. This is about getting you to think about the songs that you listen to. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and well, I guess I'll have to do more now. I have to do more. Thank you for watching. There's only one more thing left to say, and that is like and subscribe. Yeah, please become a member. If you become a member, you can read my writings on this. You can actually read this written down. This will also be available on the Patreon in written manuscript form. Again, this will be compiled into a document, because I'm going to work through the various songs, various albums, and do more of this. This is something I've been threatening to do for many years now, and yeah, you'll be able to sit and read it if you so wish, rather than looking at my ugly mug and my boring voice talking about it. Of course, yeah, Patreon is www.patreon.com/lock. Be good if you come over there and gave me some lovely money. Otherwise, you can leave me money here by becoming a member, or you can just send me money via PayPal. get the e-begging in. I don't do enough e-begging. Need more e-begging on the channel. Hopefully this has been enlightening, fun, interesting, utterly boring, everything in between. And we'll do this all again soon. There's only one more thing left to say by now. You should know what that is, and that is ta-ta.